the myth. He's the legend. He's the scientist with all the answers and all the questions. It's time for another episode of Alex's Science Corner.
Thank you. No, studio audience. Thank you.
What's going on in the wide world of science, my friend?
So, on Monday, if you were like me, or if you're not like me, you're at work. If you were like me, you took the day off and you watched the landing of the Mars InSight lander. Yeah, let's not. It was
done. It was done live.
Yeah,
you could see it live.
You could go on NASA TV, on YouTube.
And it was
has
on
several
their Facebook
channels,
page
on the
as well.
JPL website. You could watch it live. Now, of course, what you're watching live is the mission control, where all the engineers are sitting there monitoring everything coming in. There's nothing that they can do about anything that's happening because it's all pre-programmed.
So they're just watching it happen.
Right, and since there's an 8-minute delay and it takes 7 minutes from entry into the atmosphere to touchdown, when they get word that the InSight lander was entering the atmosphere, when we got word, it had already landed.
That's some distance, man.
Yeah, so it's one of those things of just sitting there, just watching the results and making sure that everything went right.
Did
it?
Yes, everything did go right. So it did land on Mars on Monday. After it landed, it took a few hours for it to open up its solar panels so it can start powering things up. But it did send a picture from the first landing just to show that it did land and everything was so far working at that point. Now, what the Mars InSight lander is going to be doing is it's not a rover. It's going to stay in one spot. It has a bunch of different scientific instruments like weather instruments and some cameras on it, but the main two instruments that it has is a seismometer so that it can measure Mars quakes, impacts, landslides, and just any kind of earthquakes Mars quakes. And
now, would Mars have like plate?
That's what they're trying to figure out.
Is that what they're trying to figure out? Okay,
yeah.
I was curious.
Is it having something? Is there any kind of tectonic, anything happening underneath the surface?
So this would let them know if there was.
That's one thing.
Because I was wondering if they already knew or they had no.
Well, no, that's why they sent this over to measure that and also monitor stuff like asteroid impacts and some other things. They don't know, so that's why this instrument is on there.
So this is the start of our Mars. What do you call it? Where people are going to come and gather and.
This is a long way off from that, but this is getting more information.
Well, it's
about
stationary, so isn't this going to become our
This is about the size of half a car. This lander is about the size of half.
But then they'll send another piece, and the robots will
We've
put it
been
together.
doing that for years and years and years now. This is not.
Yeah, but those were rovers. This is stationary. So now, are they going to call all the rovers together and have a meeting place?
No. And so, next part of the story to.
This is our stationary. So.
Bobby, we'll be dead by the time people land on Mars. Okay.
We've been sending stationary probes. It's only in the past decade
really?
or so.
I thought they were all rovers.
No. We've only sent 4 rovers to Mars. We've sent a lot of probes.
Okay.
Like about 2 years ago, or was it 3? We sent the Phoenix probe, which landed at the North Pole, and that was taking measurements until it got too cold for it to work anymore.
Is it possible for something like that, because of where it landed, that the orbit of Mars will change and that area will warm up and it can start up again?
No, because what happens is once the electronics get too cold, they're
deteriorated.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So the second instrument that's going to be on the InSight lander is going to be a probe that they're going to drill down about 5 meters or about 15 feet down.
Oh, okay. Because I was talking to someone called me Tuesday, and I couldn't believe they were going to go that far down.
How far down are they going?
5 meters or about 15 feet.
Which is
okay.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty.
Right.
That's pretty deep.
It's going to take a little while for it to dig down.
To me, it sounds like not far at all. But
well, I mean, it's the deepest we've dug down is about 1 or 2 inches
Oh, okay. Okay.
into Mars. So this is going to
So in
be
relation to
the
that, yeah.
deepest probe we've sent down. Now it's what it's going to be doing is it's a temperature sensor, and what they're trying to figure out is the core of Mars generating heat. And they're going to be testing other stuff with the temperature sensors on this probe. But the idea is to see if there's a temperature difference between the surface and the ground down below. And they can try and figure out whether the heat is coming from the sun and that's what's warming the planet, or if there's heat being generated from the core. Because Earth's core generates its own heat because we've got a lot of radioactivity that is generating heat that is causing a lot of the heat in Earth. Is the same thing happening on Mars, and that's why they're sending this. That's why that probe is there.
Okay. And colonizing, that was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Was this probe the start of us colonizing Mars?
No.
Why not? It's stationary. It's never mind.
No.
I went,
Eh,
lead
and-
balloon. Right down.
Bobby's still hooked up on Matt Damon.
Yeah,
in that,
she-
in that
I
dumb
know,
movie.
we get it, Bobby. You want to see Matt
Good.
Damon.
I
You
do,
want to make the
I
trip
do.
because that's
Good.
where Matt Damon is. He's on Mars.
Good grief.
You know, and what he did with potatoes and poop is just amazing.
Okay.
So the next part of this, there's actually another part of this that was really cool. When they launched the Inside Lander in the same rocket, they launched also 2 CubeSats. Now, CubeSat is a little bit larger than a toaster, and that's as big as it is. Or for those who don't know what a toaster is, it's about a quarter the size of a microwave oven. So just to give scales for people who don't know what a toaster is.
I think folks know what it is.
Sure.
Unless you've got a toaster oven. When
All right,
it's,
all right.
So the interesting thing about these CubeSats is they did not go into orbit around Mars. They flew with the lander until it entered the atmosphere, and they act as a communications relay to Earth for the lander. And after the lander landed, they just kept on going out into deep space.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. I was wondering
now
what
the
they did.
reason that they had these CubeSats, and they're called Marco A and Marco B, which is Mars Cube 1, and the nicknames they had for them were Eve and Wall-E for the 2 CubeSats.
Wall-E.
These were experimental satellites that because all the CubeSats we've used have been in Earth orbit. And so they want to see if they could get a radio transmitter that small to transmit from Mars. And that's the whole point of these 2 CubeSats.
Okay. So they were using those as a communication link
Correct.
from...
The lander was
From
communicating to these 2 CubeSats, and the CubeSats were talking to Earth.
Now, that was just until it landed?
Pretty much, because soon after it landed, they were going to be out of range of.
But it still had it still has means of communicating aside from these little CubeSats.
Yeah, but what they usually do is they would use one of the other orbiters around Mars right now to act as a relay.
Okay.
But they were testing to see if these CubeSats had enough power and could, because they were using new experimental antennas and transmitters.
So I'm wondering if they're hoping that even though it's gone past Mars, that they can still get some communication with them?
They're going to be testing, as they're going farther out, they're going to be communicating with the CubeSats to see how far they can get and still
Before they
maintain
lose,
a good signal.
Right, before they lose.
The CubeSats are not going to be talking to the
The
inside
Mars,
lander.
no, right, no, but just to
All
Earth.
there are is
Yeah.
just, are you still on? Can we still hear you?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And because they've got new experimental antennas on these CubeSats, to make these things this small and this powerful, this is the experimental part. They didn't know if it was going to work, so they sent them along on this part.
How else were you going to try it? Right.
Yeah.
Perfect
So-
opportunity to test it out.
So again, they sent these 2 satellites out. A lot of new technology that
So
they're
they
experimenting.
weren't crucial to this mission. They were just in a kind of a side of it.
Right,
Yeah.
but the
Side-
fact,
side
right, but
experiment.
now that they've shown that this can work, that means they can toss these really teeny satellites. You can send a camera out to someplace to look at something. You don't have to send a larger probe. You can send something this small out.
Okay. All right. Any final thoughts on the Mars
Any
mission?
final questions?
Bobby.
Wally.
Bobby.
Wally.
Bobby.
Wally.
All right. If you have any other questions about these
I
This
love
story
it.
or
As we
anything,
give Bobby a lollipop, we'll
Yeah.
just go on.
Did you ever
or
see
any-
that movie?
or
I mean, you gotta love it.
or
You gotta
anything
love
else
it.
science related, you could call Alex right now at 203
837.
99.
24.